Posca paint markers are a super cool art supply to have in your stash because you can use them for so many creative things. Poscas come in a bunch of different sizes, colors, and nib shapes, which can be overwhelming if you haven't used them before and don't know what to get. So in this video, I'll explain everything you need to know about Poscas so that you can purchase the right ones for your artistic needs and get started with them right away. And by the way, this is not a sponsored video. I've been using Poscas for over 10 years, and people often ask me about them, so I thought it would be helpful to make you this video, summarizing everything I know. Unit Posca paint markers, also known as paint pens, are essentially a marker that allows you to effortlessly use actual paint on almost any surface without the mess and hassle of traditional painting. Because they're so easy to use, you don't need any prior painting experience. Plus, you don't need a million painting supplies. All you really need are your Poscas and something to paint on. Posca paint markers contain a water-based acrylic paint that is highly pigmented, opaque, and matte. The consistency is more liquidy compared to the thicker paint that you typically get from an acrylic paint tube. Posca's water-based paint is easy to clean and doesn't contain any alcohol or solvents, so there's no unpleasant odor. The paint is non-toxic and dries quickly. It has good fade resistance, and you can use a spray varnish if you want to help the colors last longer. The paint in Poscas can be layered, mixed, and blended while wet, and even manipulated with water, like regular acrylics. Poscas can be purchased in most art supply stores. Below this video, I've posted links to Posca Markers at Blick Art Materials, where I do most of my online art supply shopping. If you're in the US, the Posca website has a handy store locator to find stores near you. Poscas are so popular these days that I've even seen them at stores like Target and Staples. Poscas are incredibly versatile because the acrylic paint in the markers is opaque and binding, so you can use them to decorate almost any surface with vibrant color. You can use Posca markers on wood, ceramic, rocks, canvas, paper, paper mache, fabric, metal, glass, plastic, polymer clay, and more. But do be aware that some surfaces are more difficult to work on than others. For instance, porous surfaces like paper, fabric, wood, and stone will tend to soak up more paint, so mistakes will be harder to fix and you'll use up your marker faster. You can help prevent this by first applying gesso to the surface, which you can see me do in my rock painting video. For non-porous surfaces, like glass, ceramics, and plastic, the paint does not penetrate the surface, so you'll use less of it, blending will be easier, and you'll be able to easily fix mistakes. The downside is that the resulting artwork will be less permanent and more susceptible to scratching and flaking, so it can be a good idea to fix it with a spray varnish. I'll post some links to my favorite spray varnishes below this video. Although paper is a common surface to use with paint markers, not all paper types are compatible with Poscas. If you're using textured paper, for example, as the Posca nibs rub against the paper, it can actually damage the paper and cause pilling, like you see here. If you're using thin paper, the liquid paint can warp the paper and bleed right through. For these reasons, I recommend using a paper that is both thick and smooth, like smooth Bristol paper. I also like using Poscas on Yupo paper because the colors lay down incredibly smoothly and vibrantly. But the downside to using Poscas on Yupo is that it takes longer for the paint to dry because the paper is not absorbent. If you want to blend your colors, then Yupo is a wonderful paper to use. But if you like to layer your colors, then you'll need patience as you let the bottom layers dry before you add colors on top. In general, any non-textured paper that's designed for wet media should also be suitable for use with Poscas. And because Poscas are opaque, you can also have some fun with colored paper and black paper. On the Posca website, you can find tips for how to best use Poscas on the most common surfaces. If you want to dive even further into the different surfaces you can use with Posca Markers, Posca created a PDF where they tested their paint markers on 55 different surfaces, from cardboard to leather, glass, clay, and even eggshells. They tested for things like adhesion, how well the Poscas stick to the surface, and line definition, how crisp or fuzzy the lines are. They also tested each material for how resistant it is to abrasion. In other words, how easily will the paint wear off through regular wear, such as rubbing or chipping or scraping. With all these factors in mind, Posca then assigned each surface a rating out of 5 for how compatible each one is with Poscas. It's a fantastic resource, especially if you like to experiment, so I'll include a link to this PDF in the description below. Poscas come in 9 different varieties based on their sizes and nib shapes. Here's how Posca names the different types. PC stands for Posca, and the M stands for bullet tip, and K refers to the chisel tip. The numbers just indicate the hierarchy of nib size. It's important to note that the numbers don't actually refer to specific measurements, like millimeters or anything. The PCF 350 is a brush tip that's designed to be extremely versatile, allowing for variable width strokes that can achieve fine details or broad strokes. This marker is well suited to calligraphy and all kinds of coloring. It's available in 10 colors, and the tip is washable, but not reversible or replaceable. The PC1MR features a 0.7mm extra fine tip that's designed for precise, consistent lines and detailed work. It's kind of like a technical pen that contains paint instead of ink. It's available in 16 colors, and while the tip is not replaceable, it is washable. The PC1M, sometimes listed as PC1MC, features an extra fine bullet tip that's a little larger than the PC1MR with a nib that's 0.7 to 1 mm. This size Posca is designed for small details. I love to use it for adding tiny little dots to my artwork. PC1M is available in 22 colors, and the tips are both washable and replaceable. The PC3M is a fine bullet tip that measures between 0.9 to 1.3 millimeters, which is around the size you typically find on most bullet tip markers. Its versatile size allows for both line work and coloring to fill in larger spaces. PC3M is available in 40 colors, including 8 glitter colors. The tip is washable, reversible, and replaceable. The PC5M is a medium-sized bullet tip that's 2.5 millimeters. It's designed to be versatile and multi-purpose. The nib is useful for coloring large areas, but might be too big for line work, unless you work on a large scale, like murals. It comes in 39 colors. The tips are washable, reversible, and replaceable. The PC7M is a broad bullet tip that measures 4.5 to 5.5 millimeters. It's designed for large format work. It's available in 15 colors, and the nibs are washable and replaceable. The PC8K is an 8mm broad chisel tip. It's a sister marker to the 7M. The various sides of the chisel tip are useful for laying down lots of color and more precise lines. It's also popular for lettering. PC8K is available in 35 colors, and the tips are washable and replaceable. The PC17K is a 15mm extra broad chisel tip, also known as a rectangular extra large tip. This is what you need if you want to lay down lots of color or do large-scale artworks. It's available in 10 colors, and the tips are washable and replaceable. The PCM22, otherwise known as the Mopper, is new at the time of filming this video and differs greatly from the rest of the Posca lineup. It features an extra large round foam rubber tip that allows for a surprising amount of versatility. The round tip can be used at an angle to create lines as thin as 3 millimeters, and used flat to create 19mm strokes. You can also use it to create controlled dripping or splashing effects with the paint. The Mopper seems to be designed mostly for painters and graffiti artists who like to lay down a lot of paint. The PCM22 Mopper is currently available in 8 colors. If you're enjoying this video and finding it useful, it would really mean a lot to me if you tap the like button. It's an easy way that you can help support my channel. Posca markers are available in 66 colors, although they're not all available worldwide. For example, in the US, most stores only offer a range of 55 Posca colors. I'm not sure why that is, but it doesn't really matter too much because 55 colors still gives you plenty to work with to express your creative vision. The full 66 color range includes 44 pigmented primary colors, 8 glitter colors, 6 fluorescent colors, and 8 metallic colors. One big thing to note is that the colors are not distributed evenly amongst the different marker types. As you can see here, PC3M markers come in the largest range of colors at 40, while some are as low as 8 or 10. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because Posca sells more of the 3M than the other sizes. But even if your favorite marker type has a limited color palette, you can still achieve a wide range of tones thanks to their ability to blend together while wet. Lightfastness refers to how long the color in the paints will last, without fading or discoloring, when kept under normal lighting conditions. If you want your artwork to last as long as possible, then the lightfastness of your paints is an important factor. Because the paint in Posca Markers is colored with pigments, you can expect fairly good fade resistance, especially when compared to dye-based media, like alcohol markers, which are much more prone to fading. However, with that said, I've done a ton of searches and I haven't been able to find any information from Posca about how lightfast their paint markers are. This is in stark contrast to traditional paint manufacturers who provide lightfastness ratings for every color they sell. Golden is an excellent example of this. They provide lightfastness ratings for all their paints, based upon the standards set by the American Society for Testing and Materials. Most professional quality paint brands also offer this information. I personally haven't noticed any color fading in my Posca art, but that's not to say it could never happen. So to help your artwork last longer, you should keep it out of direct sunlight and protect it with a non-yellowing, UV-resistant spray varnish. Just keep in mind that if you're a professional artist concerned with longevity and you want your artwork to last for decades or even centuries, then I'd encourage you to do some more research into whether Poscas are light-fast enough for your needs. Whenever you're buying art supplies, cost is always an important factor, unless you're independently wealthy, of course. It can be a bit tricky to talk about cost, because over time, prices will fluctuate. But here's a quick look at how Posca markers currently compare with other paint markers at the time of this video. Price-wise, I find that Poscas tend to fall somewhere in the middle. They're less expensive than most of the professional quality brands, like Montana, Molotow, and Liquitex, but they're more expensive than the cheaper brands. When considering price, this is when it's also important to keep quality in mind. In my experience, there is a noticeable difference in quality between the super cheap paint markers and the professional quality paint markers. The more expensive paint markers do tend to have better opacity, more vibrant colors, a wider range of colors, better nibs, and they don't dry out as quickly as cheaper paint markers often do. Plus, the professional quality paint markers often have nibs that are removable and replaceable, and some offer paint refills. For the price, I think Posca paint markers are an excellent choice for artists and hobbyists at any skill level. Posca is a well-established brand with a solid reputation and reliable products. I have a set of the expensive Montana paint markers that I purchased around the same time as the Poscas, and after a few years, some of the Montana markers actually dried out, so I had to replace the nibs, while the Poscas were still in perfect condition. On the other hand, I also purchased a bunch of Elmer's Painter's paint markers at the same time, and those paint markers unfortunately dried out within weeks, so I had to throw them away. So in short, after trying nearly a dozen different brands of paint markers, I highly recommend Posca paint markers because, for the price, they offer excellent value that's just as good as, if not better than, the more expensive brands. When you first unwrap your new Posca paint markers, you'll notice that they're not ready to use right away. So with the cap still on, you need to shake your marker vigorously. You'll hear a little clinking sound inside your marker. That's the sound of a small metal ball inside the marker barrel that's mixing the paint. This helps the paint flow freely once you start using it. Now you can uncap your marker. As you can see, the tip is still white because there's no paint on it yet. So the next step is to prime or activate the marker by pumping it a few times on a spare piece of paper. When you press down, you'll feel the nib gently retracting into the barrel, and then out again when you lift up. You usually only need to do this a few times before the paint starts flowing. Be careful not to overpump, because if you do, you'll oversaturate the nib and a blob of paint will come pouring out. Once your Posca marker is primed, you're ready to paint. From here on out, using Posca markers is pretty straightforward because you use them in much the same way as you would use a regular marker. You can draw designs and fill in spaces. When the layer underneath dries, you can add more details on top. To blend Poscas, lay down your first color. Then while it's still wet, overlap it with your second color. Use your first color again to go over it where the two colors meet. Then go over it again with your second color. How well the colors blend together will depend on your paper type. Now let's blend another color into this gradient, following the same steps of adding the new color, then going over it again with the previous color, overlapping where the two colors meet. So basically, you're going back and forth between the two colors until they look the way you want them to. So here are the 4 colors that we just blended together. Blending Poscas is a lot easier when you blend similar colors together, in this case, going from yellow to orange. You can see that this process doesn't create a perfectly smooth blend. An alternative technique is to lay down your colors and then use your fingers to blend the colors together while the paint is still wet. If the colors start to dry out, they won't blend very well, so you'll need to add more paint and then blend again. If you're blending multiple colors together, use a different finger for each blend, like I did here. You can also use a paintbrush to smooth out the blend if you want. It all depends on your personal art style. As you use your Posca markers, after a while you'll notice that the paint starts to come out looking thin and watery. It's totally normal for this to happen when using Posca markers. It means that it's time to replace the cap, shake the marker, and re-prime it to mix up the paint and get it flowing again. It's nothing to worry about, and it doesn't mean that your Poscas aren't working properly. It's just part of the process. But if you've had your Posca marker for a long time and you've used it a lot, then this may be a sign that the marker is running out of paint. So if you shake and re-prime your marker a few times and the paint still doesn't flow out as well as it used to, and the paint still looks watery, then that's a sign that it's time to replace the marker. When it comes to storing your Poscas, they can all be stored either horizontally or vertically, except for the brush nib markers, which need to be stored horizontally. I store most of my Posca markers in these stackable horizontal trays that I keep on my art desk. I like this arrangement because it's really easy to see all the colors that I have. My larger Poscas don't fit into these slots, so I keep them in these colorful tins. If you have any questions about Poscas or have suggestions for things you'd like me to demonstrate painting on with Poscas, please comment below. To learn how to use Posca markers for rock painting, check out this video, where I show you from start to finish how to create colorful, detailed rock mandalas. See you there!